Right at the start of the Photics Web Guide, there's a question. Would I do it again? If I had to pick a career, would it be web developer? Part of the challenge in answering that question is that it was way easier to get started in the 1990s. The requirements to build a website were far lower than today. Tables are an example. If you wanted a fancy page layout, you simply used a table. That's not correct by today's standards. It's wrong semantically, it's not ideal for responsive design, and we have better tools today. Let's be real, people don't usually design websites in their spreadsheet applications. That's the purpose of a table. It's to display tabular data. This goes to the theme of the book. While the expectations on web developers and web designers were lower when the internet was new, the modern way of creating a website is better in many ways. Now you have a choice of layout tools: Flexbox, Grid, and Columns. Two of the 5 most searched features on the Can I Use website is currently Grid and Flexbox. So the question of this video is this: which CSS feature should be used for a web page layout? Flexbox, Grid, and Columns are all considered baseline. That means the major browsers have supported these features for years. We don't have to worry about Internet Explorer, which makes this decision a lot easier. So let's keep going with easy. It's just one CSS declaration to get started. Using the column CSS property with the value of a number, boom, you've just created columns. Now there's more to it than that, but just think about what's going on here. This is a standard vanilla feature of HTML and CSS. I didn't need to use some third-party library. It's not jQuery, it's not Bootstrap, it's not React. I didn't need to write 100 lines of JavaScript. It's just a native feature, supported by web browsers already on billions of devices. So let's take this to the next level. Here's an example on GitHub. It's the Catholic public domain version of the Bible as a web app. Here you can search the Bible by book, chapter, and verse, or you can use a keyword. Originally, it was part of the Photics Widgets app, but this is a standalone version of the widget. The original version was no larger than 400 CSS pixels. This creates a design challenge, as what is this supposed to look like on desktop computers? That's where columns are used, and media queries. If the width of the viewport is greater than 480 pixels, then use columns. But instead of a fixed number of columns, the number is more dynamic. If there's 200 pixels of room, another column is added. This seems like a nice look for a Bible app, as that's similar to how it looks in a book. Now, the goal of this video is not about explaining how this code works. The book has more information. However, there is a cool feature that can't easily be shown in print. The scroll snapping is a nice addition to a column layout. When moving the scroll bar and then letting go, it moves to the start of a column. By using the scroll snap type and scroll snap align properties, another feature was added. Here I'm using arrow keys to show the next column. This can make the Bible easier to read. Isn't that nice? This is just a little bit of CSS, which is the main message here. By applying basic knowledge of web tech, you can build some amazing things. Getting back to the question of this video, why choose columns? In this example, it's only part of the layout. Figuring out the whole layout is an issue posted on GitHub. But in general, columns are useful for arranging a big block of text. Yet don't treat a web page like a printed page. Let the text flow to match the size of the screen. That's where Flexbox and Grid are better choices. The main difference between Flexbox and Grid is that Flexbox is basically one-dimensional, while Grid is two-dimensional. You can see that with the Widgets app. Here I'm using Flexbox to arrange the widgets in order. That order is in rows. That's the Flex Direction property. As the horizontal size of the app is increased, more widgets can fit on one row. But on a small mobile screen, it looks more like a column. That's because, in this narrow view, there's only enough space for one widget per row. The widgets are styled to expand between 200 and 400 pixels to fill the available space. So, that's the general idea. If you have a column or a row of similar shaped elements, Flexbox is a quick way to organize them. Similar to columns, Flexbox is a useful CSS feature, but probably not for designing the layout of an entire webpage. If I was recreating the Photics.com website totally from scratch, I'd probably start with a grid layout. The responsiveness is ridiculous, and it's not too difficult to set up. Using Grid to make a basic web page layout is one of the examples in the book. And after making it, I was having fun testing it out. By using Grid with media queries, a wide array of displays can be supported. From mobile to desktop, it's the same web page. More customization and personalization could improve the experience. This is just an example. The point is that it's not a lot of code, and I didn't need a third-party library. Here's the big difference with Grid. An element can span across the grid, something similar to a cell in a table. Isn't that wild? It's like using tables after all. That's the Grid template area's property. Do you see how the names are listed almost like a mini spreadsheet? By repeating the name of a grid area, which can be assigned to an element, that element can span across a column or a row. I think that's an easier way to manage the elements rather than specifying the grid column and grid row properties on the elements themselves. This allows the layout to be changed from a single location. That's quite useful when adding breakpoints. Again, the book has more information about Flexbox, Grid, and columns, but hopefully this video answers the main question. Which one should be used? Flexbox, Grid, or columns? Well, you can use a combination, so they're not exclusive. But in general, I use columns for big blocks of text that I want arranged in columns, so that's easy to remember. I use Flexbox for arranging items one-dimensionally, either in rows or columns. And I use Grid for two-dimensional arrangements of elements. I'd probably pick Grid to lay out a whole page, while I'd pick Flexbox to arrange a group of similar elements. There's another thing to know, as there's an upcoming feature. Support for grid lanes was recently added to WebKit. Basically, that means masonry layouts, kind of like staggered bricks, are now possible with just CSS in the latest version of Safari. There's a nice website where you can experiment with the new feature. You can see the difference between a waterfall and a brick layout. It's nice. But when this video was created, the support was severely lacking. It could be a while before this one becomes baseline. It's at least a few years. This goes back to the main theme. Creating websites can get easier, but then there's something new added. That can make things more difficult. You can see that clearly with Flexbox, Grid, and columns. It's a lot to learn. That's one of the reasons why I wrote a book. But once you know it, the newer tools can be quite nice.